Your father was an electrician before the war. And when the German army invaded our city, they took people from the street to work for them. And so they took your father to be a maintenance man, like a handyman, in a building that the German army has occupied as their headquarters. He was collecting wood and coal for the furnaces and doing any repairs around the building that needed to be done. And so he got to know that building very well. The man who was in charge of the German command in our city, his name was Schlottfeld. And he liked your father very much. So he left him alone to do all the chores and the jobs that he had to do. But also, he gave him a room in that building, in the attic, in the roof. Only, your father always knew that would come a time where we would have to run away. And so he started to look for a place where we could hide when that should happen. And he found such a place. And over time, he collected some blankets and some water and some jumpers and coats and all the things that we could need if we were running away. And he put them in that place, ready for that time. It was 1942 in Lwów, in Poland, in the city where we were born. And this is how he sat. For 13 months. In 13 months, in almost 400 days, I never left the basement. I came out of the cupboard to stretch my legs sometimes, but I never left the basement. And your father only left sometimes in the middle of the night to go and look for food, and every time he left, I never knew whether I would see him again. But we loved each other. And that is why we wanted to survive. And if you have a why, you always find a how. We spent many, many hours together. Told each other stories about our family. We thought everybody was still alive. Your father told me jokes again and again, the same joke. Sometimes we made cigarettes. There was a broom in the basement. Your father took a razor blade and he shaved very, very small, tiny, tiny pieces from wood from the end of the broomstick. And then we wrapped them in newspaper and we smoked them. In all those 13 months, in almost 400 days, we never broke the web. The Australian kids' lunches were beautiful. They were two perfectly matching white pieces of bread. Soft, fluffy white bread. Covered with hundreds and thousands. Maybe a smidge of Vegemite and a Kraft slice, cut into 4 perfect squares, wrapped in rainbow wax paper, and put in a Tupperware container. My sandwiches looked like they'd been dug out of the earth, as if there'd been some tectonic shift and these sandwiches were thrown up, 2 huge pieces of rye bread with 300 grams of salami or a cold bratwurst dripping of fat. And a pickle slid in, and everything dripped. Everything I owned dripped. It just dripped. The sandwiches dripped, the pickle dripped, everything dripped. Give me that bottle of spumante, will you, there over there, love? Yeah, that one. There's a glass near it with lippy. Oh, no, it's nasty. No. Nice colour, though. Avon Calypso Coral. Bring it over, will you, love? I loved Peggy Simpson. Just call me Peg. Peggy's too formal. Peggy was Joe's mum, and Joe was a friend of my brother's, and they had a daughter called Thelma. Thelma was my age. So they asked my parents if they would allow me to go with them for Christmas at Rosebud. Thelma never got in trouble. Thelma didn't pick up after herself. Thelma didn't have chores. Everybody loved Thelma at school. Thelma had long, white, thin legs covered in freckles. I had fat brown thighs, sprouting hair. I hated Thelma. One morning I got up, we were sharing a room, we had a bunk bed. One morning I got up and I did my bed perfectly. I tucked the corners in, the back, the front, I fluffed up the pillow and the blanket was all perfect. Thelma jumped on it. So I slapped her. Mum! George, Thelma's dad, took her out to Rosebud for an ice cream. She never got in trouble. I was very ashamed of what I'd done. These people had asked me to go with them to Rosebud and given me a holiday, and I'd slapped their daughter. I was sure they'd send me home, not Peggy. Oh, come on, love. Oh, don't worry about it. Sometimes I want to slap myself. Come on, love. And my mother was famous for her sandwiches. People would walk past into the shop and then go back outside and order a sandwich, and my mother would make it in the back. She'd stand there smoking a cigarette. And then she'd see somebody come in and she'd put it down. Can I help you? I want a sandwich, Mrs. Berger. I leave it to you. And she'd make these sandwiches, and then my father would take them outside to whoever the sandwich belonged to on a plate with a napkin as if it was a tiara on a velvet cushion. Who ordered the sandwich? Conrad, did you order the sandwich? You ordered the sandwich. And then whoever ordered the sandwich would say, it was me, it's my sandwich. And then it would start, oi, what a sandwich! I never had such a sandwich in my life. From God's head to my mouth, what a sandwich, Mrs. Berger. And then all the men would say, make me the same sandwich. I was so excited. We went to the city at night. We found a park. We went into the theatre. It was the Princess Theatre. The red carpet with the golden swirls and the candy bar with the choc tops and all the lollies and a packet of fantails. I was so excited. Did you been to the toilet? Did you been to the toilet? I ask you because when the curtain opens and the lights go off, it's all dark, and if you go down the stairs, you fell over, you break your neck, it's finished. Did you been to the toilet? I didn't need to go to the toilet. I was so excited I couldn't think about anything. I was breathing in the air and the lights and the orchestra. And then the curtain opened and it started and I couldn't look away. I was mesmerised. There's a part in the second half of the show where a Russian soldier comes on and tells Tevye and the rest of the cast, most of the cast is on stage, and he tells them that they have 3 days to get out of Antevka. And Tevye and Frumatzeitl, Sarah start bemoaning the fact that they have to leave their little village. And they start singing. Anatevka, Anatevka, on the fed over word. Anatevka, what do we leave? Only Anatevka. And then Tevye picks up his suitcase and leaves to go to America. And the fiddler starts playing. At that moment, my father slumped on the chair in front of him. I'd never seen him cry before. I didn't know what was wrong. Dad, Tatu. I thought he was having a heart attack. I didn't know what was wrong, but I could feel it around the corners of my mouth, deep in the sockets of my eyes, and in my chest. Tatu. This is how it was, Ruchale. This is how it was for your mother and me. And this is how it was for your grandparents. There was so much about my parents I never understood. But I made a choice, as much as I had a choice, to follow their rules. just as they'd followed their captor's rules.